Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jared. Good to be here.
Yeah, I've just kind of recently started to get to know mineral process control. So, can you maybe just give us that bird's eye view of who the company is, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, I will do. Mineral process control, we've been around for almost 30 years, started in 1995 by our managing director, Rob Mason, who's a geologist who had many, many years running mine sites, etc. Initially, the company was started to promote a product called Leachwell, which I think many of your viewers are probably familiar with. Now, Leachwell is a accelerant for the cyanide dissolution process for gold. And what it allowed customers to do was to basically accelerate a 24-hour assay, bottle roll assay from 24 hours, which normally takes down to 1 hour. So you can see the benefit of doing that in terms of an assay process. From that, we then developed an assay tab which used the cyanide and Leachwell in one small tablet, which allowed the assay to place that within the bottle roll quite safely in the measured amount. And from that, we then developed our signature, our main product, which is the pulverise and leach assaying process, which is we call PAL 1000, which is what we're pushing out into market and has been quite successful lately.
Can you sort of just I mean, probably there's going to be a certain percent of viewers, like you mentioned, that understand the process, but for a lot of people, they won't. They'll just want to need to get to the core of it. So could you sort of explain the process, and I'm sure you'll send us some images and that we can bring up some charts of a little more in depth of what we're talking about and that original process that got the company started.
In terms of the Leachwell products,
Yes.
so that was developed by a gent who's a late gentleman called Dave Menny, who was a bit of a pioneer in the gold cyanidation process, whereby, as your viewers may not know, that gold cyanide is used extensively in the gold mining industry to leach gold up into solution, and that can then be recovered through generally a CIP process through using carbon. You will then, for that process, for the gold coming into the plant, you'll need to understand the gold content, and generally you use that by a traditional process such as fire assay or something like that. That particular fire assay analysis doesn't give you your recoverable gold. So you might have X grams per tonne of gold coming into the plant. However, you will only recover a percentage of that, say 90, 95+%. What the cyanidation assay is, which traditionally uses what's called a bottle roll, where you get a large jar and put a large amount of ore into the bottle, plus cyanide, and water, and you roll it around to dissolve the cyanide up, and it gives you the recoverable amount of gold, so how much your plant will be able to recover. What Leachwell allows you to do is that normally would take 24 hours to get a complete dissolution. Leachwell is a chemical that accelerates that process and allows you to do that within 1 hour. So rather than having 24 hours to determine your recoverable gold, it only takes you 1 hour. So you can see the obvious benefits for the miner or the assayer in that regard in terms of time benefits. That was the initial process. And in the mid to late 90s, that was what the company pushed out into market. And you'll see that in a lot of explorers, for example, on their notes to stock exchanges like the top Toronto Stock Exchange, the Australian Stock Exchange, through their announcements, they'll have a Leachwell, what they call a Leachwell assay.
Right.
So they'll have the gold content and the Leachwell assay, which is primarily the recoverable gold assay. So from that Leachwell chemical, the company then started to develop all these other technologies and chemicals to assist the assayer and really push forward that accelerated assay, cyanidation assay.
I realize asking this question, you might completely correct me, and I might be way off, but I'm going to give it a try. So, is the PEL one is the system that you were just going through, the Leachwell system? Now, is the PEL 1000? Is it the machine that operates that system? Are they connected?
Yeah, it's a good question. So basically, the pearl was developed from the leach roll chemical, and then a subsequent chemical, well, product we produce, which is an assay tab, which is effectively a combination of leach roll and cyanide in a small tablet, which we can then add into a bottle roll, and a lot of customers do that. What the Pearl 1000 is, it was developed with the premise of if you could assay your ore samples or your process samples quite quickly using the leach roll and cyanide combination, then you could potentially get a recoverable assay, cyanide recoverable assay very quickly. Um, so rather than using bottle rolls, the premise of the PAL is effectively 52 cast iron pots,
Mm,
which are containers, which contain grinding media, and that's the pulverizing aspect of it. Then add the assay tab, which has got the leach roll and cyanide, and a kilogram of ore sample, hence the 1000. And that effectively grinds and leaches the ore sample to recover the total recoverable gold within an hour. So effectively what we're doing is combining leach roll and cyanide within a tablet, which then goes into the coal machine. And the beauty of it is if you're going down the fire assay route, for example, or other equivalent assaying routes, you will need to do a certain amount of uh, you'll need to do a certain amount of assay preparation. So
mm,
where you'll get the sample from, say, the drill, the air drill, whatever you're using, the RC drill, and it'll be quite coarse. You'll then need to split that sample down because it may be, say, a number of kilograms into a small amount, and then pulverize that sample into micron size, which then goes into, say, for example, a fire assay might be 30 grams of sample. So you might be going from 2 or 3 kilos down to 30 grams. So there's a fair amount of process to get down to that small amount. With the
right.
Pell, the beauty of that is you can split, say, a 2 kilo sample from a RC drill down into a 1 kilo subsample, which you can then crush down to 2 mil normally, a minus 2 millimeter size, which is still quite coarse, and put that sample straight into the Pell machine. And then an hour later, it's pulverizing and leaching at the same time and allows you to then assay the gold content.
Again, you're going to get some pretty layman questions from me, but I was trying to, like, because I'm on here on your website and I'm looking through, you have some nice pictures of the machine. How is this being fed?
Okay, so basically, the process would be if you think about a normal mine site, you'll be generating, say, grade control sample. So a grade that's a typical use for it in a mine site. So a grade control sample is where a geologist and a miner will go out and determine where the grade of if we're talking gold is sitting within the ore body. So what's actually ore and what's actually waste material.
Mm,
So a grade control sample is just a matrix of samples across the ore body to determine where to mine and where not to mine.
right.
So they will take those samples and they'll be the samples that are quite coarse. You will then split them down to 1 kilo, and if you've got the image up of the
Yes.
machine, it's got the 52 pots, which you literally just hand feed into this machine. So
Right.
you'll hand feed a kilogram of quite coarse material, 2 millimeter material into the machine, seal it all up, and rotate the rotating action for an hour, generally an hour, and you'll get a very fine material. Generally, it's about percent passing 90% plus of 75 micron, which is very fine. Now, over that hour, you get the pulverization and the leaching, and then you simply take a sample of the solution and then put it through something like an AAS machine or an ICP to get the gold content. So it's very, very quick. 52 samples can be done within an hour and
Mm,
a half.
wow.
And it's very, very cost effective as well.
Are there people using the system without using the PAL 1000? And so is part of what you're doing is trying, because it's so much more efficient and quicker, that you're trying to get them onto using this actual machine, in addition to which integrates that system.
So there's lots of people using leach roll because leach roll is also used in recoverable of coarse gold. It can
Right.
be used in high in a
Mm,
process plant and in high intensity cyanide reactors. There's also customers in the lab just using leach roll for their bottle rolls. There's customers using the assay tabs, which is a combination of leach roll and cyanide in bottle roll only. But what we're trying to encourage more and more customers to do globally is to use the pearl because of the benefits it can bring to the customer in terms of it's a very low OPEX cost. We feel it's about 20% of comparable assay techniques. The capital cost is very low.
mm,
It's south of 70,000 USD, and the turnaround of an hour to an hour and a half in samples is very quick compared to other methods, and it also provides a mimic or an overview of how your plant's going to actually recover the gold. So we have these other products to answer your question with the leach roll, the assay tabs, but really we feel the most benefit our customers will get is by using both of those components within the PAL system.